you grew up in.
Okay, I grew up in two houses. From the age of nothing to four, we lived in downtown in the city in a duplex. Mom and Dad worked, and the people on the other side of the duplex that took care of me. That's really all I remember. I remember they had two teenage daughters, and they were a lot of fun and took care of me. I remember there was a stairways to going downstairs, and along there was a ledge, and that's where they put the bottles of whatever they had been drinking. So I would go along and drink the dregs until the lady of the house, I don't even remember that lady, but I know she took those bottles away from me. I don't remember my bedroom. I'm sure I had a bedroom, but I remember getting in bed with my mother and thinking I could hide and Daddy wouldn't know it. So after a while, we moved. We moved more out into the country, and I said to my daddy, the only thing I wanted was to have some water so I could have a duck or ducks. And he said, sure. So we did have water, but it was a sewer system that ran along the back of the house, so it's not good for ducks. I lived there from the age of 4 to 21, I guess. And I think I had a happy childhood. I didn't think that we were wealthy enough or had enough money. We didn't have a car, and everyone else had a car. I didn't have cashmere sweaters, and everyone else had cashmere sweaters. Our house was not modern. We did not have a bathroom. We had an outhouse where my brother trained a goat to keep me in the outhouse. Eventually, the house was modernized. We rented it. We rented it from the people across the street whose son and his family lived behind us on the other street, so we were right in the middle. It was a good area, good people. I liked them all very much. I'm still in contact with the kids behind me. Their parents died. I think I had a happy childhood. I don't remember so much what I did. I went to a parochial school. I went to a Lutheran school, and I loved that, and to learn to love Jesus and that he loved me, and God is good and God is great, and I would make these posters and put them on my wall and dare my brother to make fun of me. From there, I guess I went to high school. I'm still growing up, but in high school I had fun, and I was a cheerleader, so that was a whole lot of fun. And I think that's my childhood. I can't remember anything else really.
As a child, who were the most important adults in your life?
Oh, the most important adults in my life were my mom and my dad and my grandma, and that was it. They told me what to do and how to do it, and if I was good or if I was bad. I'm sorry.
What kind of a student were you?
I went to classes. I never missed a class. I was not a good student, and I have learned since then that I did not know how to study. I still don't know how to study, but I think I got through with C's, so I made it. I made a profession for myself. I turned out to be a secretary and managed to go overseas with that.
Who was your favorite teacher and why?
I imagine my favorite teacher was my shorthand teacher. He was very good. He would trick us. He was also taught typing, as did another woman who taught us bookkeeping and typing. And since that ended up being my career, of course they were my favorite teachers for my favorite classes.
What do you remember about your first job?
And that's very interesting. What is your first job? I had so many part-time jobs. I babysat. Was that a job? When the parents came home and found me asleep. Then I worked in a dime store after school. I thought it was very important working that cash register. My next job I was still in high school, but I was on a work program where I got out at noon and worked in a company as somewhat of a secretary. and sent letters to Cleveland, Illinois. That was not a very good move, but especially since the name of the company was the Cleveland Grain Company, and I should have known that that was Ohio. But my next best job, I guess, was at International Harvester. And I think I was a secretary. I felt like I was a secretary, but I don't think they named you secretaries then. I don't know, but I know I took shorthand and I typed and I did this and I did that, and I liked it. So that was my first job, all of those.
What did you do after high school, and what was that time like?
You mean, I don't know what you mean. You mean, what did I do after classes, or what did I do after I graduated? If you mean, what did I do after classes when I went home, my mother always had lists of things for me to do so I wouldn't get in trouble. If you mean, what did I do after I graduated from high school, I was still working for International Harvester, and I went on to work for other like industries.
Briefly describe your ancestry.
Well, my father was basically English and American Indian. My mother was Irish Scotch, so I'm an English Scotch person, Indian. But that's all I know about it. I know my grandparents on my mother's side and my grandfather on my father's side. But that's about as far as I can go with my ancestry until I figure out this other course I'm going to take.
What was the most shocking news story you remember hearing as a child?
This was not a news story, but it was the most shocking thing I heard as a child was that my uncle had been married before. No one had ever told me that, and I thought Aunt Helen was his wife forever and ever. And I thought, how dare they not let me know something like this? Because that was important. But everyone tried to protect me, I decided.
Who's the most famous person you've ever met?
Well, I don't know. I met John Glenn, the astronaut. I met someone else. So wonderful, I can't remember her name. And that's about it.
What would be your perfect meal?
Quesadilla.
Describe a perfect Saturday afternoon.
Oh, the house is all caught up. There's nothing to do. I can just sit back and read, or I can sit on the balcony and read and maybe get some sun.
List a few of your habits that annoy other people.
Well, of course, I have none of those. But I know that I smoke, and that annoys most everyone I know, and those that I don't know.
What would you do differently if you had more self-discipline?
I think I would have got better grades in grade school and high school if I could have learned how to study. So if I go back, I will take a course in how to study before I go to school.
What do you fear?
What do I fear? At this age, I fear. I'm beginning to get off balance, and I fear of falling. But I don't do much about it because I don't pay much attention to where I'm going half the time. And I've only fallen a couple of times, but I think I don't like this age. I didn't intend to get old. I didn't intend for old age to come upon me so quickly.
If you could travel anywhere for free, where would you go?
I imagine I would go to Thailand and visit my stepson.
If you could watch just one movie again and again, what would it be?
Pretty Woman.
What do you like best about yourself?
I think I like my sense of humor, and I like my style of dress, and I like the fact that I try to keep a decent figure.
If you had all the money in the world, where would you live?
Right here.
Name one great smell.
Oh, shoot. Popcorn. Popcorn is a wonderful smell.
Where do you believe we go when we die?
I don't know where we're going, but I'm going to heaven.
If you could relive one moment in your life, which one would it be?
Oh, I'm sorry.
If
I
money
wanted to
were no
answer that.
object, what would you buy?
Okay, you can answer. Go ahead and answer that question about if you could relive one moment in your life, what moment would that be?
I can't hear you.
Oh,
If you could relive.
I'll replay it for you. Hold on. Let me back it up.
If I could relive one moment of my life, it would be the courtship of my husband.
Oh. Okay. Now you can click. Oh,
If you could relive one moment in your life,
here we go.
if money were no object, what would you buy?
I would probably buy a condo where all of my friends could live in it. We could be there together and not disturb each other, but be there. Along with my son. He would have to be there.
What was your all-time favorite TV show?
The Man Who Knew Too Much? I don't think that was the name of it. What was that guy's name? That committed a murder and they couldn't find him. Oh, I forget. Anyway, it was very, very good. The one later.
What was the most memorable concert you ever saw?
The most memorable concert I ever saw, I don't know the name of it, but my husband took it to me in New York City, and because I was with him, that made it memorable. I don't even remember what it was, but it was in New York City, and I was with my husband.
If you could bring someone back from the dead, who would it be?
Yes, my husband.
How do you feel about flying? And how do you prepare for a trip?
Yeah, I have never, ever been afraid of flying. I don't know why. I don't remember even thinking about flying, except that I think my first trip was from Indianapolis to Miami. And I just got on an airplane and went, and I just loved it, and have ever since. Right now, things are not too happy with the flying people, so I haven't flown for quite a while. But I think I could do it.
Do you believe in psychics or the supernatural?
No, I don't, but I listen to George Norrie at night, and he has a lot of supernaturals, and they're almost convincing me. Fortunately, I fall asleep before they're done.
What's the best dish you can prepare from scratch?
It was a pork chop dish. I just don't believe that because I don't like pork. But it was very, very good, and everyone loved it.
Describe a family tradition you remember fondly.
Well, it had to be Christmas Day, Christmas Eve. It was very nice. We went to church. Of course, I was in a pageant or something from the school, and then we would go home and open a couple of presents and get up in the morning and open more presents and visit with our neighbors next door. Christmas was good stuff.
What was the best phone call you ever received?
Probably the best phone call I ever received was that I had passed my real estate exam. I had no idea what I was talking about in that test. It was so awful. But I passed it, and I'm pleased to say at one point I was an agent.
What was the best road trip you ever took?
Probably the best road trip I ever took was with my husband when we drove from Vientiane, Laos to Bangkok, Thailand, with the top down on the car. It was fun. I had to learn to speak a little bit of Thai to help with who's coming and who's not because the steering wheel was on the wrong side of the car. But it was fun.
Who's your favorite movie actor and actress?
Oh, I would say Cary Grant and get to this age, your mind goes blank. My actress would be Glenn Close. That isn't true. I forget.
What's the most daring adventure you've ever been on?
You know, I've always been accused of not being very daring. But probably the most daring adventure I've ever been on when I was driving, and I was driving people through the wilds of Laos, and I acted like I knew where I was going, and I had no idea. And when we got there safely, the guy said, "Wow, Stu, you really knew what you were doing. You did a great job." So that was the end of that.
How much are you bothered by growing older?
I think I'm very bothered by it. I don't quite know what to do about it because it just happens. Old age was not supposed to come upon you so soon. Granted, I have not colored my hair. I did color my hair, but I found out I was allergic to hair coloring. And I figured everyone knew I was coloring my hair anyway, and that wasn't a very honest thing to do, so I just decided to go gray gracefully. I never really felt old until this last year, and don't tell Sally I said that.
Name
Oh my
all the
God.
pets you've ever had.
I think the first pet I had was a Cocker Spaniel who was black, and we named him Jet. And then we had a little doggy that came from I don't know where. He was white, and Daddy had to take him to the vet because something happened to his tail or something. And then I think the next pet we had was a bulldog that my cousin had, but where they were living, they would not allow him to stay. So he came to our house. He was the ugliest, sweetest child I ever met. He would walk through our vegetable garden right down the rows and not smudge a thing. Mom would feed him dinner of whatever she thought he could have, and on top of it, she would always put dessert, a piece of pie or a piece of cake, and he would eat all around that dessert and eat the dessert last. What a smart doggy. I think after that, I had a poodle, a miniature poodle, and then I went overseas and couldn't keep him or take him, so I gave him to my mom. And then after I got married, my husband and I brought back a Pekingese, and then we we bought a dog out of a pet store, and he was wonderful. His name was Martini Manhattan Mavro. And he trained all the other dogs in the neighborhood to go run with the cows and the horses. That was Mar. After that, I had a schnauzer named Daisy, and then I had another schnauzer named Sam. And then, the best of all, I had my son's dog, which is a Boston Terrier. He was the best kid you ever met. He was black and white. He looked like he was wearing a sailor suit. And my son brought him to my apartment one day and to visit, and he said, you know, I just feel so bad, Mom, because I'm not home enough to take care of him. I said, well, I'll take him. And he said, you would? And I said, well, yeah. Oh, well, he said, I don't know. I would miss him. I said, I'll give you visitation rights. So from then on, that was my dog. And when we had to put him down, we did it together. And it was the saddest, probably the saddest day of my life. It was worse than losing my husband. I miss that kid.
We're about out of time, so one last question. How would you like to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered as a kind, caring, decent person, willing to listen to you and anyone else.
Thank you for visiting the U Studio.
Beautiful job.
You're welcome.
What a lovely,
I love Martini Manhattan. What was it? Martini Manhattan.
Mavro.
Mav.
I was the martini, my
alliteration.
husband was the Manhattan.